Hey, Tad.
Yes, Matt.
Let me tell you about. Wait, hold on. Does that say WoW Deepest Lore Episode 3? I thought this was like times I died, or
Actually, I'm pretty sure this is Revival 29.
shit, dude, I got my character sheet or anything. Oh well, the episode says Deepest Lore 3. Let's just do it.
Right off the top of your dome, not prepared at all. You just kind of had this all ready. And exactly 7 days after WoW Lore Episode 2. How about that?
I don't know, dude. It's really been 7 days already. I mean, it feels like it's been like maybe a year. I don't know.
That's crazy talk. But tell me about WoW for the third time. So where do we pick up? Where were we last time?
So where we left off was the ending of Reign of Chaos, Warcraft 3 Vanilla, as it were, with the big bad guy, Archimonde, getting blown the fuck out, BTFO, as it were. He walked up to this big world tree called Nordrassil up on Mount Hyjal. He was gonna fuck it up, and little did he know, if you blow a horn and you're a night elf, you can summon a whole bunch of ghosts and they circle this demon guy. He just fucking explodes. Which is kind of weird because I wasn't in any of the dialogue. It was just like a thing that Malfurion did with no explanation that you're just supposed to take. But fuck it. Like that. Saying but fuck it is kind of where this lore train is going to end up a little bit down the line. But let's start off with the expansion to Warcraft 3, the Frozen Throne. Now, I would think, or I would say, that Frozen Throne is a better story, a better game as well, compared to Reign of Chaos.
I always see people talking about Frozen Throne. I never see anyone talking about Reign of Chaos, like, ever. It's always just, hey, man, fucking Frozen Throne where it's got the Lich King dude on there. Isn't that a game? Isn't that a crazy awesome game? I've never seen anyone mention Warcraft 2 either.
That's because Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos is a lot more limited as far as unit types and like the ability to create custom maps. Because you were pretty like stuck with what the vanilla game gave you. It didn't give you the Blood Elf units in any like particular order. It didn't like have a Footman Blood Elf or anything to make your own like custom Blood Elf map or whatever. It lent itself a lot more to custom map styles such as Footman Frenzy. To those who know what Footman Frenzy is, why are you listening to this podcast? Don't you have kids? Anyway, and Frozen Throne really got big off of everyone's favorite. For some reason, everyone's favorite esport, Dota, because that's where it all started. That's where the Aeon of Strife style Fortress Assault game going on two sides genre started. And if you want to fact check me on that, please do, because I don't know if that's really how that happened.
Because it was Aeon of Strife was the original mod, and then Dota kind of took that gameplay style and made like the map and did all that crazy shit, and kept a lot of the dumb, stupid Warcraft mechanics in that made no sense to be in a game of that type. But now they've been in there so long that they're never going to get rid of them. Like stacking creeps. That's just a fucking engine limitation. That's stupid.
Yeah, exactly. And so you could call Aeon of Strife the Sex Pistols. You can call Dota... God, they're going to hate me for this. You can call Dota the Beatles, because they're vastly popular and totally overrated. And they take you way too long to get into. And you don't feel as good after you're done listening to them. Anyway, enough let me tell you about the Beatles. Let me tell you about the lore. So, Archimonde's been blown up. Great, fine, and dandy. And we open up the Frozen Throne, and the first cutscene we see is of our old buddy, Illidan. Now, when we last saw Illidan, what he was doing was he grabbed the skull of Gul'dan, and he grabbed it real hard. He grew some horns out of his forehead, grew some wings, got a lot more brooding. His brooding went up +10 by doing that. And you see him waving his arms over the sea like right outside. I think this would be at this point either Feralis or Ashenvale. You can find that on the map if you need a reference. But he pulls up what's called, he pulls up a race of lizard folk called the Naga. And who the Naga are, they are night elves who fought in the First War, but they didn't fight on the side of the good guys, because the Naga, they align themselves with the Burning Legion under their queen, Azshara. And Azshara, essentially, if you listen to episode 2 of WoW Deepest Lore, we talked about how she was kind of queen bitch of the elves and kind of doomed a vast majority of them, and her faction was called the Highborn. And all the Highborn that aren't dead became Naga. Once the Broken Isles, which are the main subject of the current expansion, which we will talk about later.
Wait, the current expansion?
Yeah, like Legion, that's where.
Oh, I thought you meant there was a new WoW expansion that came out.
I mean, this is the most up-to-date one. There's going to be another one afterwards, but this one, like the beginning of Frozen Throne starts where WoW is at now. So it took them a good 12 years to get back to this place. So the place that the Highborn chilled around at, or their home base, their city, was Suramar. And Suramar got knocked underwater once the Well of Eternity exploded. There's a lot of details as to why that happened. I'm just going to go with the waters rose, the maelstrom showed up, flooded the entire city, whatever. But Illidan, not only does he bring up the Naga, he brings Suramar back up to the surface. This dude brings up essentially Atlantis from the bottom of the ocean all the way back up. And why does he do this? Illidan does this because a demon of the same stature of Archimonde, a little bit more red in hue, a little bit more fiery eyes, a lot more evil looking, named Kil'jaeden. He's pissed at someone, but we'll get to that later. So we pick up the Night Elf campaign, which is the first campaign of Frozen Throne, following a Night Elf warden named Maiev Shadowsong. Now, Maiev Shadowsong is the head honcho of the Night Elf Wardens. So the Wardens, what they were charged with was keeping these demons in check that they didn't either banish back to the Twisting Nether or kill, essentially. Which would, I guess, be the same thing. Yeah, that is the same thing. So they pretty much ran the prison called the Vault of the Wardens, where, coincidentally, Illidan used to be prisoner. And Maiev is like the detective in Lupin the Third. She is the quintessential... What's the name of the character? What is the name of that character that chases Lupin? Or...
I can't remember at all.
She's the cop that chases the criminal, the dashing anti-hero. Or at least that's how they're trying to paint her as, but really she just has a hate boner for Illidan. She has a very strong hate boner for Illidan. And she just gets these reports of just crazy shit happening around the edge of Kalimdor. And she sees some boats being burned, and she sees the Naga. And she also notices some little demon trails, because now Illidan, wherever he walks, he leaves fiery hooves, so it's not very easy for him to sneak around. But anyway, Illidan's raising hell across Kalimdor. Maiev picks up his trail, and she follows him all the way to the Broken Isles, where Suramar is. Now, Illidan is at Suramar because that is also, conveniently, where the Tomb of Sargeras is. Now, the Tomb of Sargeras, what this holds is the Eye of Sargeras. And the Eye of Sargeras is a very powerful artifact said to have enough power to destroy the world. It's essentially the MacGuffin for this campaign. And Illidan goes down into the tomb, and Maiev chases him. But before she goes down into the tomb, she sends off her most trusted Druid of the Claw to fly over to Kalimdor, to Darnassus, where Malfurion and Tyrande are rebuilding their area. And then Malfurion's like, we should probably go over there and help her. So they go and they start heading over to Suramar in the Broken Isles to rescue Maiev. And while Maiev is inside the tomb, Illidan gets the eye. And while he has the eye, he escapes, because, Maev's never going to really catch this guy. And he flees towards Lordaeron. And if you remember back all the way in episode 1...
I don't.
Oh, well, let me tell you about it again. All the way back in episode 1, you might remember, Lordaeron is where all the undead Cult of the Damned bullshit went down. It's where Arthas was from. So, there's no real reason given why he goes over there immediately, but we find out later. And so our big night elf party of Maiev, Malfurion, and Tyrande ride the boat all the way over to Menethil Harbor and get to Lordaeron. And, oh boy, they didn't know that this shit was going on over here. No way. Which is kind of weird because you think they would know about this kind of thing, considering that they fought alongside with Jaina and Thrall, but who knows? So Malfurion, he fucks off to go commune with the trees to see what Illidan's up to. And Tyrande and Maiev, they start looking for Illidan. And they start fighting their way through the undead, Maiev and Tyrande. And they come across a blood elf by the name of Kael'thas. And Kael'thas is like, hey dudes, you pretty cool, you're elves, you're purple, you're a lot taller than me, that's weird. You want to fight the undead together? And Tyrande's like, hell yeah! And Maev's like...
So wait, hold on, where did Kael'thas come from? Was he just there?
He was there under the command of Lord Garithos, because he was fighting with the humans at the time, remember?
Okay. I thought he was, because I know
this is the first time we're recording this episode, of course you don't remember.
He's in, that crappy MOBA. And so I thought he was the big important leader of the Night Elves, or the Blood Elves, or some shit.
Yeah, he is. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was right then.
Yeah, he's the basis for Invoker in Dota, I think. I don't know if they use his model or the Spellbreaker model, but I'm pretty sure they use Kael'thas for Invoker. I haven't played Dota recently, so... If you've played Dota 1 recently, feel free to drop a comment in the web zone there and donate a pizza roll. And so anyway, they start carving through the undead, and they have to cross this bridge. And Tyrande gets BTFO, just knocked off the bridge. And she's just, for all intents and purposes, gone. And we don't know what happened to her. So Maiev,
what did she get knocked off the bridge into? Just the water, or...
Just the water into the river.
Okay.
And Maiev and Kael'thas return to Malfurion after... Well, I think I'm kind of going out of order here. So Tyrande gets blown down the water, and we go back to Malfurion before Maiev and Kael'thas show up. And he's communing with the trees, and Malfurion almost dies, because he feels like he's literally about to be split in two. And the reason he feels like this is because Illidan is conducting a ritual which is tearing apart the roof of the world. Why is he doing this? We might find out soon. And Malfurion, he doesn't really feel too hot about that, so he disconnects his communion from the trees, and then he meets up with Maiev and Kael'thas, and Maiev says, I saw Tyrande get torn in half, Malfurion. She's dead. Fluff, fluff, fluff. And Malfurion's fucking pissed, understandably. And they go on this big fight through the undead against the Naga to find Illidan. And Malfurion is so pissed he's actually about to kill Illidan. And while he's grilling Illidan to find out why exactly he was doing this, Illidan lets slip that he was trying to destroy the undead. Because little did our Night Elf friends know, the base of the undead is in Northrend. And the Frozen Throne, name of the game, is also in Northrend. But Malfurion's not having any of this shit, because, he didn't consider the cost of, tearing the world in half just to get rid of the undead. And on top of that, Tyrande's dead, right? Alright, so Kael'thas saunters on up to Malfurion, and he just says, well, we didn't really see her die or anything, so I know she got blown away into the water, but she might not be dead, And Maiev, for some reason, turns around and tells Kael'thas to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, because, like, that's really dumb. I don't know why you thought that would work.
Yeah, and Kael'thas, he's not in on this. He doesn't understand why Maiev lied about this. So he's just like, she might not be dead, dude. And Malfurion's even more pissed at this point because Maiev told Malfurion that Tyrande was torn in half. So Malfurion has Illidan in his entangling roots, like this spiky root bondage that druids do. He switches that immediately over to Maiev, and then they fight through the undead. They find Tyrande, and Illidan and Malfurion are like, you know what, dude? You're not that bad. For like the second or third time in their relationship as brothers.
Oh, that's right. I forgot they were brothers.
Malfurion Stormrage and Illidan Stormrage. So when Malfurion says he was about to kill Illidan, like he said prison isn't enough this time, that's how you know he meant business. But once they find Tyrande, they both mutually agree to let Illidan go off into this portal he just opened, and Maiev follows suit in there. And that is the end of the Night Elf campaign.
All right.
Moving on. So then we pick up with Kael'thas, the Prince of the Blood Elves, and this is kind of a neat thing that Warcraft 3: The Frozen Throne did, was it actually shined a light on the Blood Elves, because the vanilla game didn't really do a very good job of that. It did a good job of showing you how hard the Blood Elves got fucked up by Arthas, but didn't really tell you what happened afterwards. How does this affect them afterwards? So Kael'thas is just under the command of Grand Marshal Garithos. And Garithos has drawn these wicked comparisons to, like, Hitler for some reason that I can't really pick up. The dude just doesn't like elves. And if you follow along Kael'thas' actions following the start of this campaign, you're going to find out really quickly why Garithos doesn't like elves. And so Garithos, he tells Kael'thas to go activate some beacons, because they need to get some eyes on the undead. And by getting eyes on the undead, they'll have an advantage. So while Kael'thas is doing this, and of course while he's getting these orders, Garithos is like totally shitting on him as an elf, and like saying, Quit your bitching about the mana, buddy. That's enough. We gotta do this shit. We gotta do this now. And that's kind of like an insensitive thing to say to someone who just lost their only source of magical power, you know, because like the Blood Elves have gone from regular ass high elves who are just high on magic to Blood Elves to where their blood is running dry every second that they don't have mana. So they're kind of like mana heroin addicts at this point, to where if they don't get mana, what happens to them is they become wretched, where their skin goes gray, they shrivel up like they're starving, and they pretty much look like hollowed Dark Souls characters. It's not a good look for a Blood Elf, to say the least. And Kael'thas is understandably pissed about this, so while he's activating these beacons, he comes across a Naga Sea Witch, who was left over after Illidan went into the portal, because he couldn't take everyone with him, obviously. And the name of this Sea Witch is Lady Vashj. And Lady Vashj is just asking for some help to Kael'thas. She just wants some help to get her people through the portal. She'll help him out, some quid pro quo, scratching in the back, all that good stuff. And, of course, this would be treason against the Alliance, because, you know, you're helping out the enemy, who happens to also be a bunch of monsters, who also happen to kill some humans before Illidan left. So Garithos sees this, and he's pissed. He's really pissed. And he essentially kicks the entire race of Blood Elves out of the Alliance. And that's justified. Because once the Prince of the Blood Elves lines up with the Naga, I don't care if you're fighting the undead, everyone in the world is fighting the undead. You kind of betrayed the Alliance there, pal. But perhaps Garithos didn't have a good understanding of how the mana affected the elves. Who knows? But the dude's not Hitler. He's not like the worst person ever for kicking out the Blood Elves. So what he does is he throws Kael'thas in prison, and Lady Vosh comes in through the aqueducts, rescues him, and I'm kind of just scraping the bottom of the barrel of my memory here, but they have to meet up with the ghosts of the Archmages in Dalaran, because that's where they are. They're in the ruins of Dalaran. And they need to meet up with them to either get out of the prison or to activate the portal to get out. I think it's to activate the portal to Outland. So they activate the portal by meeting up with the Archmages. And if you played Warcraft 3, you got to experience one of the very first iterations of a tower defense game where you played as Kael'thas. You played as the peasants building the towers for Kael'thas's people to get the fuck out of Dodge. So they hop through the portal and they end up in that wonderful world, which I think we might have talked about, called Outland. Now,
which is
you might remember,
basically just been fucked by Gul'dan, right? And it's just pretty much dead, right? Is that Outland?
It hasn't been fucked by Gul'dan. It's been fucked by Gul'dan and his friends, I would say. Because once Gul'dan was... How do I say this? Medivh and Gul'dan and Sargeras all came together to fuck this place up. Because if you remember from the Warcraft movie, this place wasn't so fucked up before they came over here. It used to be called Draenor. It used to be a pretty beautiful world, all things considered, with orcs, Draenei, just being tribes, being neighbors, all that good shit. Till the Burning Legion showed up, Gul'dan tricked Grom into drinking the Kool-Aid, and then they came through the portal. So now we're back here. Back in Outland. And Lady Vosh is trying to enlist Kael to search for Illidan. And Kael'thas really has no other choice at this point. Illidan's got to connect with the Legion. Legion's got a lot of magic. Let's fucking go. So Kael'thas fights through a whole bunch of fell orcs, and these are your supercharged up orcs, not the green orcs. These ain't no bitch-ass orcs. They're fighting the big boy orcs.
The red ones, right?
Yeah, the red ones with like the glowing eyes, the spikes coming out of their back. It's pretty gnarly.
The ones that are hopped up on demon blood, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's kind of weird that they're still hopped up on demon blood, right? Because, Mandaroth's dead. Wonder why.
Makes me think.
So then, they see this caravan of prisoners just over the ridge in Hellfire Peninsula, and they see some wings clipping through the fucking model of the cage, and they're like, oh, there's Illidan. There he is, right there.
I'm guessing that's a reference to something?
No, it's not a reference, it's what's actually in the game, because when you play this mission, you find Maiev running this caravan that she's finally caught Illidan. Finally fucking got this guy. And the model for Illidan is he's in this like what looks like a 5x6 cage, and he's just on one knee looking at the ground with both his swords in his hands, which are also clipping through the cage, with his wings sticking out of the cage. So you can obviously tell it's Illidan. It's pretty hilarious looking.
They just did. I mean, I guess it makes sense not to spend the resources just for that one scene, but also like, come on, guys.
Yeah. And how they end up imprisoning him in a later time is a lot more practical and actually works. So Kael'thas and Lady Vosh, they break Illidan out, and Illidan informs them that he was sent here by Kil'jaeden. And Kil'jaeden is... I've already discussed this. He's like Archimonde. He's red. He's got fiery eyes. He's got wings too. He's a lot more demonic looking than Archimonde was. Archimonde is kind of like the midway point between Draenei and Iridar demon. So Kil'jaeden, he sent Illidan to destroy the Lich King because we find out the Lich King's gone fucking rogue, which you might have picked up on in Reign of Chaos when Arthas, helped kill Tichondrius. Arthas went over there at the Lich King's behest to fuck up the Legion's plan, because the Lich King, Ner'zhul, he kind of realized that if the Legion took over Azeroth, they would destroy the world, which meant also destroying him. And the Lich King's not a big fan of that. So they went rogue, and Kil'jaeden's fucking pissed. Because Kil'jaeden's the one that gave Ner'zhul that power. Because we actually have not talked about this. Ner'zhul used to be the chieftain of the Shadow Moon clan in Draenor. This dude used to be an orc. So
wait,
Kil'jaeden has a history with Ner'zhul. So I think they retconned it to where Ner'zhul did nothing wrong, to where he sacrificed his body for his people, but I don't buy into that. I don't buy into that retcon bullshit.
That seems to be a lot of WoW. Like, a lot of Warcraft seems to be every single enemy is they did nothing wrong. You know, they were trying to do their best in their own way, and every single enemy, except for like the lava dude with like the hammer, Ragnaros or whatever. He's just like I'm just like a big fire demon. Like, fuck off, I don't care.
Right, like Ragnaros is one of the very few villains in this entire goddamn landscape that's just evil just because he's a fire lord, he's gonna fuck shit up. But almost every other villain that you encounter that's not a demon, and sometimes the ones that are demons, are just, oh, they just went insane. They lost their sanity. They've lost control. And yeah,
it's a little old if that's the only one. It's almost like Warcraft isn't written by very good people. Almost like it's a story for a fucking video game.
Well, the thing with that is, some video game stories can be amazing, such as Hollow Knight or Persona 3 through 5. I haven't played the first two, don't hate me. But you can write a pretty good story for a video game, but you're gonna find out real quick who Chris Metzen is, and we're gonna get into him. We are going to do a deep dive on Chris Metzen in future episodes because the lore gets dumb, but we got to get through the good shit first. And
Chris Metzen lore, parts 1 through 3.
Coming out in 2020. And so moving on, they've got Illidan. We find out that Ner'zhul's gone rogue. Kil'jaeden's fucking pissed. So Illidan's essentially on the run from Kil'jaeden because he failed. And Illidan's like, you know what? We're pretty strong people. We got a Blood Elf army, a Naga army. And then they meet up with the Draenei, who are a little bit kind of broken at this point, too. Like, they're not their usual selves, because Draenei, they typically actually look like Archimonde. They just look blue. They don't look nearly as demonic as Archimonde did.
Someone I saw describe them as holy demons or something like that.
They're more what we would call space goats. Like, I'm not fucking joking. That is their defined term, is space goats. Because they're just like big blue satyrs who don't have the huge horns. They don't have like the furry legs or anything. They're just space goats who are very in tune with the light. And after the whole shit with Outland, after it broke apart, some of the Draenei got deformed by the either lack of light or just the fell magic latent in the area, and they become the Broken. And the leader of the Broken, his name is Akama, and he leads the Ash Tongue tribe. And they line up with Illidan, and they do a huge assault on what is called the Temple of Karabor. And the Temple of Karabor, what that is, it used to be this huge holy Draenei temple before shit got fucked. And it's known as the Black Temple in WoW, which we will get to. And the Temple of Karabor is being held by a demon called Magtheridon. And Magtheridon is the reason why we saw those red orcs earlier, and why they're running all over the goddamn place. Because you want to know what? Magtheridon's actually a pit lord. Looks exactly like Manaroth. Pretty much serves the same purpose, too. Not as strong, though. So, what Illidan and his friends do, they infiltrate through the aqueducts, and they fight their way up the Black Temple of Karabor, and they kill Magtheridon, which is all hunky-dory, and they're just gonna chill in Outland for the rest of their lives. Kale's got all the magic he would need. And then BAM! Fucking Kil'jaeden shows up out of nowhere. Like, you just see this fire in the sky, shoots down on the ground below this huge cliff where Illidan, Kale, and Lady Vosh are standing. and you see this towering demon, bigger than what I would assume Archimon looked like in these cutscenes, and he just stares Illidan into the windows of his soul, and he says, "Bitch! I thought I told you to kill the Lich King." Illidan's like, "Oh shit, dude, I'm gonna go do it again. I'll go do it again, boss. You know me."
Now, why is he called the Lich King again? Because a lich is like an undead like dude who's got like a phylactery that he put his soul in to live forever, right? How do you become a king of those?
He became the Lich King, essentially through. I think what had happened was Ner'zhul had his body destroyed somewhere along the way after Grom drank the blood, and Kil'jaeden bound Ner'zhul's spirit into this armor, and he encased the armor in a block of ice and pretty much put it under his influence. But since the Legion got fuckaroonied a few times, they're not super strong enough to maintain that kind of power over an undead army forever, so Kil'jaeden's grasp over the Lich King just sort of slowly fades away. Therefore, he goes rogue. And speaking of the Lich King and the undead, next campaign. So we move on to the best campaign, I would say, in all of Warcraft 3, next to the human campaign from the first game. And this is called the Frozen Throne. So, where we start is we meet up with Arthas, Sylvanas, and Kel'Thuzad, pretty much doing some Monster of the Week bullshit, killing some random humans, making sure there's no survivors, fucking around in Lordaeron, being pals, you know. And that's the first mission. And at the end of the first mission, Arthas sees a meeting of Dreadlords. And the Dreadlords, they don't know he killed Tychondrius yet. The fools. The Dreadlords are trying to tell Arthas what to do, and Arthas is like, nothing Persona 4, kid. And then just runs away. And the Dreadlords, they all reconvene with each other and shake their fists in the sky. That darn kid, Arthas. He needs to get off our lawn. And Sylvanas sticks around to see this. And the thing about Sylvanas is, you know how I said Kil'jaeden was starting to lose his grip on the Lich King?
Mm-hmm.
Turns out the Lich King didn't take too kindly to that little spell Illidan did. So now Sylvanas isn't entirely under the control of the Lich King because, you know, Illidan didn't fail entirely. He did some damage. So the Lich King's kind of losing some power. And Sylvanas is like, She like starts looking around at the place. She looks at the Dreadlords, looks at herself, looks at the Dreadlords, looks at her hand, just like starts slowly shaking it in the air. It's like,
so then the dude goes into her body then and starts taking over?
No.
Oh.
Sylvanas, at this point, is entirely sentient. She remembers who she is at this point, which is not good news for our main character, Arthas. So in the second mission, it opens up with Arthas at his dad's throne. He's kind of redesigned it a little bit to kind of shit the place up a lot. Looks a lot like an undead place at this point. Don't know why he just chills where he killed his dad. But Arthas has some problems. He's kind of fucked up, so whatever. And then what he does is he talks to Kel'Thuzad to where he just keels over and listens to the Lich King saying, "Run. You're not safe. We need to get the fuck out of here, dude." And this is because, and the reason Arthas is so significant in all of this is because he's got the sword, Frostmourne. That's part of the suit of armor. Like, that's part of the Lich King. And Arthas is like, oh, yeah, you know what? That didn't feel so good. I'm gonna leave. And then he starts getting attacked by his own undead because he doesn't have control over them anymore. And this actually is a very good detail that is actually one of the better things I like about the continuity of this game. Because there's a line at the end of Wrath of the Lich King which makes this all make sense. It's like, why the fuck would the undead attack him? He's undead too. What the fuck? It's not like The Walking Dead where if you're in blood and guts, they just don't attack you. They thirst for blood no matter what. And Arthas has to fight through his own undead and realizes that the Dreadlords have set him up, and he's just escaping all that they can throw at him. And he's just about to get to the boat, and he gets shot with an arrow. And the arrow
get hit in his knee. Us gamers.
Sylvanas, she's not the best shot at this point. Not yet, at least. And she narrowly misses his heart, and he escapes. And what Arthas does after that is he tells Kel'Thuzad to stay in Lordaeron to make sure that he at least has something to come back to. He's not coming back. Are you kidding? And Arthas sails all the way to Northrend. And while he's sailing to Northrend, we're just going to focus on Sylvanas here for a second. So what Sylvanas does is she meets up with one of the Dreadlords, and his name is Varimathras. And Varimathras is the last of the Dreadlords remaining, I think. Yeah, I think she killed the other two. And Varimathras is the last one. And he's like, well, I could work for you, it'd be a good thing. And Sylvanas is like, okay. And they create their own faction of the undead, which are going to take over Lordaeron. But these undead all know they're undead. They know that they've been killed by the Scourge. They've got their wits about them now. And they're not too happy with it, of course, because, I wouldn't like finding out I was killed and now I'm a rotting corpse who only speaks in, my jaw's missing. Great!
So he speaks, telepathically? Or...
I don't know, because, in World of Warcraft, they have characters that don't have jaws say words, which I don't understand. But that's another mystery of World of Warcraft. And they call themselves the Forsaken. And the Forsaken, they essentially establish a foothold in Lordaeron. They take over. And along the way, they kill Garithos, for those of you who still think he's Hitler. He didn't do anything wrong. And so they take over that, and Sylvanas and Varimathras chill there until World of Warcraft starts. But let's go to Arthas. What Arthas is doing is he's sailing up to Northrend, lands there, and he's just going to take the usual route he normally takes until he realizes, shit, the undead up here aren't listening to me either. Arthas, while booting from 1995 Windows, meets up with this huge spider guy by the name of Anubarak. And Anubarak's like, hey dude, I got this underground kingdom full of spiders and shit. They're loyal to you. We're smart. We got you, bro. Just follow me down here. It'll be all cool. There's lots of spiders down here, but it's really cool. And Arthas, he's an edgy guy, so at the notion of spiders, he's like, ugh. He just goes down there and goes into the underground kingdom of Azjol Nerub, which is the huge, I think the comparison would be Egyptian underground kingdom of the Nerubians, which are the spider crypt fiends, which feature prominently in the undead army.
Okay, and they're like the scarabs and shit, like the giant bugs.
Right. And the bugs, I don't know, I think this is explained a little bit later on, why the Nerubians align with the Scourge, but most of the bugs in this game have alignments to the old gods, which I believe we've talked about. And speaking of the old gods, while down there in Azjol Nerub, Arthas runs into what is called a Faceless One. And the faction that... Alright, so in Warcraft 3, you have the unit title of something, and when you hover over it, you see their faction. And in Warcraft 3, you have no idea what these are. You have no fucking clue what these things are at all. You've never seen them before. Nothing. So it's called a Faceless One. And the faction it's listed under is things that should not be. Which is fucking cool. Like, for an RTS, like a fantasy RTS, to create horror in something so simple as a faction title of this thing shouldn't be here. This, like, you're an undead prince who's killed his dad and ravaged an entire continent with zombies. And the game is telling you, these things should not exist. That's fucking cool. So anyway, he kills the faceless one, and then fights another one called a Forgotten One. Might have gotten the two mixed up there, but it's really cool. And the reason these things are there is what we'll get into at Wrath of the Lich King. And he gets out of Azjol Nerub. He's got some of his power back at this point because he's getting closer and closer and closer to the throne. So he's level 10 again in the game. He's marching up to Ice Crown. He's ready to just go up there, help the Lich King out, sit down backwards in a chair, talk about life. And he realizes that, that doesn't look like something that should be there. That thing's got scales. Is that an elf? Is that an elf I see? Blonde elf? Why are they here? And Arthas just has a slow realization of, it's not going to be so easy.
Being so cheesy.
Not so easy, but it gets dangerously cheesy. Because Arthas, what he has to do is he has to activate 4 obelisks and maintain their strength or whatever to get into the Frozen Throne to unlock the Frozen Throne. And that's just the game mechanic. It has no bearing on the story, but I felt like it was needed to add that in there. So Arthas runs like a hot knife through butter through 3 different armies, and he's had enough of this shit at this point. After doing all that, he just wants to walk up these stairs, talk to Ner'zhul, go the fuck home. And he walks up to the door. It's like that one shot of where you see him walking up, and he pulls out his sword because he sees something that the player doesn't see. Like that real cliche samurai shot, and it pans up and you see Illidan just looking real pissed and everything. He's like, hey man, Illidan's like, hey Ben, you think about maybe not going up there. Be real cool if you didn't, wouldn't have to fight or anything. And then Arthur just swings a sword at him as they fight, and it appears that he kills Illidan. Like, no shit, the game makes you think he kills Illidan. And after that, you have the concluding ultimate cinematic of Frozen Throne, which is Arthas ascending to the throne, to Ner'zhul. And while he's doing this, you have this amazing, beautiful music playing. And I'm not memeing here. This music is amazing. You have this amazing, beautiful music playing, and you hear the lines of Arthas' friends while he was making his fall, such as Jaina saying, I can't believe you would do this, Arthas, or Uther saying, watch your tongue with me, boy. You may be a waiter, but you are not a master chef yet. So he ascends the throne, and he sees Ner'zhul encased in this block of ice, and he pulls out Frostmourne and just starts hacking away at the throne like the sword is now a hammer. And he cuts it open, and the armor just falls to the floor. And Ner'zhul is just in Arthas' head the entire time as he's putting this armor on. And finally, as Arthas puts the helmet on, his eyes light up. The screen cuts to the next shot, and the last thing you see in Warcraft 3 is Arthas just sitting there on the throne with his sword, and just zooms out.
And then he's not brought up again until the fucking expansion, like 3 years later.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say he makes appearances, but he's referenced to up until that expansion, which we can get into in World of Warcraft. We're finally here, folks. Time to talk about the game that sucked away 12 years of my life. Okay. All right. So does that mean you want to do vanilla now or next episode?
I guess we could do it next episode, because that's when Alex started playing, and then you guys can talk more about the experiences you had in vanilla WoW. And what it was like for Alex entering and effectively the Act 6 of World of Warcraft, where all the good shit's already happened.
Okay. So we can just go with this then. It's like about 45 minutes.
Something like that. But let's see. So Arthas ascends the throne, and that closes out the Frozen Throne expansion. And then he sits there, the door closes, and you never see a mention of him again outside of some small bullshit until the fucking expansion several years later.
Yeah.
All right, so that was WoW Lore episode 3. And that finishes out all the base Warcraft games and all of the Warcraft games that will ever show up for the rest of time, because now it's only the MMO. Sucks to suck, don't it? Anyway, on next episode, we're going to have Alex back on because he really started playing WoW around the same time. So I'll go ahead and do some quick plug stuff here. You can find the podcast here on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play. You can find us on the website at www.lmtya.com. That's where you'll find quick links to all of our dumb bullshit. There's also a Discord, which you can find. You can find me, Matt, and all the rest of these nerdos hanging out. You can also find me and Matt on Revival, a Dungeons and Dragons real play podcast. That's a lot of fun, and I love it. It's great. You should listen to it. Anyway, WoW 4 will come out probably a lot faster than this one did. So look forward to that one, and we'll see you guys next week.